I trusted him with my life, but the secret he hid shattered everything I believed in. Watch what happens next.
It all started on a rainy evening in New York. I was walking home after a long day at work, my umbrella barely holding against the harsh wind. That's when I first noticed him, James. He had this aura about him, confident yet strangely mysterious. I didn't know it then, but meeting him would change my life forever. Our first few conversations were casual. Coffee, small talk, laughter, it felt effortless. I had never believed in love at first sight, but with James, it was different. By the third week, I was already drawn into his world, captivated by his charm and kindness. He made me feel special, like I was the only person in the universe who mattered. He remembered the tiniest details about me, my favorite flowers, my childhood memories, the song I hummed when I was nervous. It was intoxicating. But then came the subtle signs. A phone that never left his hand, messages he quickly hid, a sudden excuse to leave during dinners. I told myself it was paranoia, that I was overthinking. After all, James loved me, didn't he? The turning point came when I visited his apartment for the first time. I was expecting a cozy, warm place, but what I saw shook me. There were 2 sets of everything, 2 toothbrushes, 2 wallets, even 2 calendars marked with different names. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe I had misunderstood. He explained it away as old habits and work stuff. Still, doubt not at me. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the love I felt. But love is blind until reality slaps you in the face. One evening, James invited me to dinner at a secluded restaurant. I felt nervous but excited. We sat across from each other, the candlelight reflecting in his eyes. That's when he dropped the bomb. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his tone unusually serious. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Anything, James? You can tell me anything." He hesitated, then spoke slowly. "I'm married. I have a family." I froze. The fork in my hand clattered onto the plate. "What do you mean?" I whispered, unable to comprehend. He explained that his marriage was distant, loveless, and that he had been living a double life. My heart ached, but a part of me tried to justify it. He still loved me, didn't he? For weeks, I wrestled with my emotions. The man I trusted with my life had lied to me every day. Every sweet word, every gentle touch, every promise, it was all built on a lie. I confronted him. Tears streaming down my face, I demanded the truth. And he gave it, more lies intertwined with partial truths. It was impossible to untangle reality from deception. The breaking point came when I found messages on his phone, not just with his wife, but with someone else entirely. I realized then that I had been a part of his web of secrets, another victim of his carefully crafted double life. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly alone. The trust one had placed in him had been shattered. But amidst the pain, a small voice inside me whispered, "This is your chance to rise. Don't let him destroy you." And so, I made a choice that would define me. I walked away from James, leaving behind the love I thought was real. I took control of my life, determined not to let someone else's deception dictate my happiness. After leaving James, I moved into a small apartment downtown. The walls were bare, the space quiet, almost too quiet. I spent days replaying every moment, every word, every smile he had given me. How could someone so charming, so seemingly genuine, hide such a dark truth? Friends tried to comfort me, but their words felt hollow. "He's not worth it," they said. "You'll find someone better." But it wasn't about finding someone else, it was about understanding how I had trusted so completely, how I had let myself be vulnerable to someone who didn't deserve it. I threw myself into work, long hours at the marketing firm, hoping the busyness would drown the pain. Yet, at night, memories crept back, and I found myself scrolling through old messages, staring at photos, trying to decipher where it had all gone wrong. Then came the call that changed everything. It was from a woman named Clara. She said, "I think we need to talk." About James. My heart froze. Another secret? Another truth I had yet to uncover? Hesitant but curious, I agreed to meet her at a small cafe. Clara arrived, her face tense, her hands gripping a coffee cup. "I don't know how to say this," she began. "But James, he's been doing this to me too." She told me about the lies, the manipulation, the way he had created an illusion of love while living a completely separate life. Everything I had suspected and more was true. She had documents, messages, even photos proving his double life. I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Anger at James, relief that I wasn't crazy. He wasn't just deceitful, he was a serial liar, someone who thrived on controlling others through trust and affection. Together, Clara and I decided to confront him. Not for revenge, but for closure. We needed to see the man who had shattered our trust, to hear the truth straight from his mouth. We found him at his apartment, calm as ever, as if nothing had changed. I looked at him, my chest tightening with anger and disbelief. Why? I asked simply. Why do this to us? James tried to justify his actions, speaking of loneliness, of obligations, of love that didn't fit neatly into his life. But there was no excuse. None of it could repair the betrayal, the nights of tears, the humiliation. I realized then that closure wouldn't come from his words. It would come from me, from reclaiming my life, my self-respect, and my happiness. The next weeks were hard. I faced the aftermath, explaining my choices to friends, setting boundaries, and learning to trust myself again. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if I would ever feel safe opening my heart again. But each day I grew stronger, more certain of who I was and what I deserved. Then came a turning point, a project at work that demanded all my creativity, all my focus. I poured my heart into it, creating a campaign that became one of the most successful in the company's history. Recognition, praise, and respect filled a void James had left behind. It wasn't just professional success. I began reconnecting with people who truly cared, rebuilding relationships that had been neglected. I traveled, explored new hobbies, and even started writing, documenting my experiences, my pain, and my growth. Through it all, I understood a powerful truth. Betrayal does not define you. How you respond does. James had taken my trust, but he could not take my resilience, my determination, or my future. Months passed since that fateful day I confronted James. Life had changed in ways I never imagined. The pain of betrayal had softened, replaced by a quiet strength I didn't know I possessed. I had learned that the hardest truths often lead to the most profound growth. One evening, as I sat on my apartment balcony watching the city lights flicker, Clara called. "I have news," she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and relief. "James is finally facing consequences. He's been exposed at his work and his marriage. People are seeing the real him." Hearing that, I felt a strange sense of closure. The man who had caused so much hurt could no longer hide. But more importantly, I realized I didn't need revenge. My life was moving forward, thriving without him. I began sharing my story online anonymously at first, under the title, Her Broken Truth. I wrote about love, betrayal, resilience, and self-discovery. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from people who had gone through similar heartbreaks. They shared their pain, their struggles, and their journeys of recovery. It was then that I understood the true power of my experience. My broken trust had become a story that could help others heal. Through my words, others found courage, clarity, and hope. Life, I realized, was not about avoiding pain, but about transforming it into wisdom. The heartbreak, the lies, the shattered trust, they had shaped me, but they did not define me. Eventually, I found love again, not with a man, but with myself. I embraced my ambitions, my passions, and my independence. Every smile I shared, every laugh I enjoyed, was a small victory over the betrayal that once threatened to consume me. One quiet afternoon, as I walked through Central Park, I paused at a bench where I had once met James. I smiled softly, not with longing, but with understanding. Life had moved on. I had moved on. And I was stronger because of it. I realized the moral of my story: trust is sacred, but self-worth is invincible. No one has the right to manipulate or deceive, and when they do, the only power we truly have is in how we respond. Walk away, reclaim your life, and let your resilience shine brighter than their lies. Her broken truth became more than a story of heartbreak. It became a testament to strength, courage, and the ability to rise above betrayal. And in that rising, I discovered the ultimate truth. The most unbreakable bond you can have is the one with yourself.
Moral: trust is precious, but your self-respect is priceless. Walk away from those who lie, manipulate, or betray you, and rise stronger than ever.